I enjoyed the process of the laser cutting because there was something very unpredictable about it. It removed an element of my hand, and often things would turn out completely different to the way I'd expected, and I actually liked that surrendering of control. I began my career as an artist when I finished my Masters at Michaelis. In 2001, I was lucky enough to have a solo show at the Goodwin Gallery in Joburg. And that was a really good show in that I had a very good response and had a lot of exposure from that. And from then on, I moved into making new works, evolving from the theme that I was dealing with for my Master's work. So there's been a little bit of a departure from what I've been working on in the past, say 5 years, where I was using a lot of laser cutting as a tool to create my work. But after a while, I realized that I actually wanted to, get back into working with my own hands consistently. I started doing the weaving and, cutting paper by hand into lots of small units that then get assembled into a larger whole. So my creative process is quite varied. I began as a printmaker. That's what I was studying at Michaelis. I began becoming maybe a little bit bored with two-dimensional prints, so I started cutting them up and then staggering them into layers to create sort of paper theatres inspired by the 19th century paper theatre. That was my earlier work. So what began with that cutting then evolved into something more abstract, where I started hand cutting more abstract shapes and then layering them or pinning them. But more recently, I'm sort of working with, rope and weaving and stitching and wrapping objects. I'm constantly looking at the world with new eyes. I'm inspired by all sorts of things across the board. I think previously, there's definitely been an underlying theme of fragility of life, especially with the paperworks. They were very much inspired by the Helderberg incident, which was from 1987.
The music band.
And it was a plane crash. My father was a passenger. So I sort of delved into that body of work, which lasted for about 8 years. I'm always looking at new materials to challenge myself with, because that's really what drives me. That's what excites me, is creating something new and different each time.
The music bed.